Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Seth?
I'm doing very well. We've talked to a lot of people over the last 6 months who have been self-isolating, but you are our first home confinement guest, and I want to talk a lot about the.
I'm breaking new grounds for you.
You are. You're a trailblazer. I want to talk about the book's content, but I'm also sort of fascinated by the process because you did write this book in prison. Was that a conducive place to the writing process? And more importantly, did your fellow inmates know you were working on a book?
So the answer to both questions is yes, it was conducive. I was working at the sewer treatment plant, and there was a lot of free time, believe it or not. So I would put myself into the electric room that had a small desk, and on a yellow pad, I would begin to write. And at the end of each day, I would sit down with a group of my friends, inmates, like Tony Meatballs and Andy Cucumbers and Stevie and Herbie and a whole group of guys, and we would get together in a cube. Usually it was mine, cube 28, and they would come for a reading, and I would read them different parts of the book that I was working on, and it was just something that we did to pass our time.
Do please, when you speak to him, give Tony Meatballs my best. And I would also want to ask, I know you were worried that a manuscript like this, obviously a lot of people wanted to get their hands on it, you were worried that it would leak. Like, how do you protect something like that when you're basically, confined to a place where you're not in charge of your own materials, really?
You're not in charge of anything, to be honest with you. So there was a situation that took place. I used to keep the manuscript under my mattress. And unfortunately, there was a little incident, and I knew I was going to be taken to the SHU, the solitary confinement, the segregated housing unit. And I was concerned that the COs, most of whom are Trump supporters, that somebody would get a hold of it, see what it was, and then pass it along to somebody. And so it was the day before Passover, and outside was the rabbi, and he had the fire pit. And normally you burn the chumetz, the bread, the night before. And I took my manuscript and I dropped it into the fire pit to everybody's anger, but I did it anyway because I had to get rid of the manuscript.
I bet you're probably one of the few people that has used Passover for that purpose, Michael. A trailblazer in another way, I guess.
Go Passover.
So Michael, our show interacted with you back in the early days of the Trump campaign because we were in conversations about having him on as a guest, and one of the things that you reached out and
Seth, can you believe that was 5 years ago?
I truly can't. I can't decide if it feels like yesterday or 1,000 years ago, though, because time is folded in on itself.
For me, it doesn't seem the same. Yeah, for me, it doesn't seem the same. Lots happened for me over 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. You probably didn't picture yourself working in a sewage treatment unit.
Well, I went from one crap house to another.
But, very well played.
Thank you.
By the way, I'm shocked to hear that working there you have a lot of downtime. I guess that's one of the upsides of working in a sewage treatment unit. But I remember you reached out. One of the preconditions you had about, or one of Donald Trump's preconditions was that I would have to apologize for jokes I made at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I'm wondering if in your time working for him, you often had to reach out on behalf of his ego when speaking on his behalf.
On a regular basis. Unfortunately, it was on a very regular basis. And thank you for at least acknowledging that it was him directing me to do it, not me deciding to do it.
It's interesting you say that as well, because in the book, to your credit, you do admit to taking a very active role. You were not just a passive bystander. You were, yes, following orders, but you knew they were the wrong thing to do, and you did them anyway. You speak about Trump supporters and the sort of whole Trump world as being like a cult. You're obviously not in that cult anymore, but you sort of exited the cult because of the legal situation you were in. Had that broken differently, had you not had those legal troubles, do you think it's possible you would still be in the Trump cult?
It's very possible. I can't give you the answer to that because I can only speak from fact. And the fact of the matter is I was, for an interesting term, excommunicated from the Trump cult, not on my own volition, as you stated, whether it was the legal proceeding or Trump and cronies deciding that I should be the fall guy. But it's very possible that I would still have been in that cult. I am it's the one thankful thing that I am for everything that has happened. It's given me an ability to amend with my wife, my daughter, my son, and actually the country to make amends.
When we come back after the break, I do want to talk about some of the things that you sort of admit to having a great amount of regret for now. But I did appreciate that you admit to the fact that you did not have a come to Jesus moment here. You were sort of kicked out, and it was then that you reflected back. And it is nice to read a book where there aren't a ton of excuses. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about that. We'll be right back with more from Michael Cohen.